Hey guys, it's Mikko from Elmo Sound Lab, and today we'll be making some of the best impulse responses ever with the Mikko 2, and if you have the Mikko 2 full version, you can have them for free. So the reason why I made the Mikko 1 and now the Mikko 2 was to remove myself from the impulse response sound. So if you have a sound in your head and you're using someone else's impulse responses, that someone else actually plays the microphone. So essentially, in a way, you're always going to be using a preset of someone else's tastes. Now with the Mikko plugin, what you can do is you have complete control over how to place microphones. So finally, you can mic up the cabinet exactly the way you want to mic it up. That being said, you people keep asking me to make some more presets for you for the Mikko 2, so let's do it today. And obviously if you have Mikko 2 full, I will leave a link down below for you to get these amazing mic ups that I hopefully make now. So there are many different principles that I've heard throughout the times for getting the best mic up. And I'm gonna try out all of them today. So this is sort of a test at the same time. So let's start with the most simple thing, which is a single mic up. I already have a favorite cabinet that I tend to like for using just one microphone. Many times the mega caps in here are amazing, but surprisingly, I actually like the Anger probably most. If I'm just gonna be using 157, it's gonna be the Anger one. And 57 is what I would use if it's just a one mic up. Let's have a listen to this track that I have going on here, and let's see how it works in the mix. So if you kind of cheat and look at the graph in here, you will see that wherever I place the microphone, the low end is kind of not changing that much. The low end is pretty much the same while I'm moving the microphone drastically, while everything from above 1K is changing a lot. So really the focus for placing on 57 should be on what happens on that top end of the guitar sound, because the low end you can't really even control. Like if you would want to get rid of something like this hole here, it's just there constantly no matter where you place the microphone, because it's a bottom speaker. So what we are trying to do here is just find the best high end for the 57, and the best high end would be the least amount of spikes and the most even roll off. So let's kind of look for that sound and just listen to the guitars. So on this cabinet, I'm actually liking two different sides. I like this side, but I also like how it sounded here. Let's hear it in the mix. Okay, I like that sound. Ultimately, when you bring it closer to the middle, you start to get this kind of awesome bite, but at the same time that will sound quite harsh in the mix. So just getting to that nice point where that harsh, brittle high end disappears. I'll actually demonstrate it again. So just the guitars. This. And now it's too hollow. And there it's just perfect. So this will be the first one. Let's save this IR or mic up more. Save. Let's call it Mikko's single mic. Now there is another microphone that I do like on its own, and that is the 160. Now since we went with kind of a modern mic up with the 57, let's go to the other end, which still works in this modern mix, but let's go for some really nice pre-rollas with the Ribbon 160. The Ribbon 160 is probably my second favorite microphone for using if I'm just going to be using one mic for a guitar mic up. So if I go for the vintage cabinets, I'll likely use either the Jimi Hendrix spec or the Van Halen spec. So the Jimi spec would be the H55, and the Van Halen AC/DC spec, all the other guys, is the M75. So let's try the Jimi speaker first. That's a pretty good sound here. Let's hear it in the mix. I'm not sure if I like it more than I like the M75, but you know, let's have a listen. I think it's pretty good. Now let's listen to it soloed. And that's it. So that's sort of a different kind of a single mic up. I do prefer the M75, mainly because I feel like the high end is more modern. The H55, I feel like it kind of shifts down a little bit, and in a modern mix you can sort of have the guitars disappear or something like that. So this is more of a vintage mic up. And notice that I haven't used any EQ, I haven't messed with anything. These kinds of raw sounds is the entire magic how you make a digital modeler sound like an analog thing. You mess with it as little as possible. So let's save this one. Mikko single mic, vintage. Let's call it Greenback. Green. Okay, next up, let's jump into my personal mic up. If I was to mic up a cabinet, what would I actually do? So I would pull up 3 microphones, and depending on the situation, I will use 2 or 3 of them. But the mics will be a 57, 160, and a 421. Let's jump to a cabinet that I love the most. And this will be a difficult thing to do, but I'll try my best. It will be a mega cabinet. You know it. Is it the Gent or is it the Oversize? It's one of these two. Let's have a listen. So let's have a listen. We are comparing 2 of the same cabinets, made the same year. The speakers are both dated the same year, which is 2000, by the way. Exactly the year 2000. Both the Periphery 3 cabinet and my personal #1 cabinet from the same year. They sound nothing alike. They sound nothing alike. Same spec speaker, same year, same cabinet. So yeah, the Gent is the one that was used on Periphery 3. It will have more of that 3-4K, but a very nice 3-4K. And the Oversize just sounds so massive. And I'm gonna pick the Oversize. I'm gonna add 2 more mics for the same cab. And 160, 421. And I will start with the 57. So let's just listen to the 57 first. That's probably one of the best mic ups I can pull up this quickly. And the thing here is that it's a cab that's very familiar to me, so I know which side of it sounds the best. It tends to be on the right side here. I placed the 57 the highest, sort of on the axis, and then the 421 and the 160 is the lowest. And really, what is important to note when you start adding microphones. You can add up to 9 with the Mikko 2, but I don't really recommend doing that. Every time you add a mic, you sort of remove character. So we can make a mix like that next, just to show off what I mean. But imagine what an impulse response curve actually is. It starts from 0 information to around 100 Hertz. You have a lot of low end information. Then you kind of have the same thing happening on the opposite side. You'll get the roll off of the high frequencies between 4 to 10K. When you kind of add several mics in there and blend multiple impulse responses, you start to sort of taper off the low and high end of the sound. You only get the mids, which is a good thing in many ways, but at the same time, when you do that, you are sacrificing the definition. So if you think about high definition, what that means, or a hi-fi sound, it will have lots of low information and uber high information, but pleasant information up there. I feel like the reason why many people blend so many microphones is that they really don't know what they're doing with the mic up themselves, so they just add so many microphones to get rid of all the nasty highs and the low ends, and they just have the mid-range left. So if you want to get the highest quality, high definition sound, 1 mic, 2 mic, you will retain that high end. Even here, if I mute one of these microphones, and these are blended in equally, you will barely even hear a difference. Just have a listen. Even the main mic, which was the 57 that we started out with, I can mute that microphone and the sound will not even change that drastically. The more mics you add in, the less each of them actually matters. So less is more, definitely, when it comes to how many mics you want to use. Like I said, the more mics you add in, the more you're just left with the mid-range or a muddy sound. You get rid of the high-end definition, and many times you actually just get this very low-end boomy sound. So don't do that. Now that we have these 3 microphones, I want to fine-tune the latency for each of them, to kind of fine-tune some of the minor things. This will likely make a small difference, but it's a difference that I want to hear. So if you're completely new to this concept, when you have 2 mics or 3 mics on a real cabinet, you rarely get them in perfect phase. With the Mikko 2, everything is automated so that everything is in perfect phase. But if you want to get some of that realism back, you add some latency to one of these microphones, or all the microphones really, besides one. So you get the same realistic effect that you would get when you're miking up a real cabinet. So let's do that now. I'm muting the 3rd mic right now, just doing it with the 57 and the 421 now. The same risk is here. If I go too far, I'm risking the hi-fi-ness of this impulse response. I did like pushing the delay up on the 421 there. And let's check the 160. And for the 160, I wanted to lower it just a little bit. And the cool thing there is that it's actually sort of, the 57 is middle now, and the 160, you'll be hearing it just a tiny bit first, and then the 421 last. It's so micro, nanosecond stuff that you'll never notice it, but there's a tiny phase in all of these microphones together, and now there is a bit more life to the sound. Yeah, that sounds perfect. I'm gonna save this. Let's call it Mikko's perfect mic up. And this is how I would actually mic up cabinets in real life too. So just so you know. The next thing I promised to do was to blend too many mics together. And it's actually a cool sound. But you want to use the brightest mics. All the time, the brightest mic. So I'm going to be using just the dynamic mics, 421s and 57s, and placing them on different cabinets altogether. So just for the sake of doing things, I'm gonna pick 9 cabs that I love. Let's pick the Anger again. Okay, we have the oversized with the 421. Then the Mofo with the 57, 421, and make up 4x12 green. Sure, why not? Oh yeah, the Volt is one of the best caps I have ever had over. And then let's add in some greens. That's pretty good. Why not? And a vintage cap, let's do it. H75, just so there's something a little bit different in there. And one more. Let's add a black back. Okay, so I'm just gonna be finding the best position for each of these mics alone. I'm definitely not gonna be adding any latency to these. It's just gonna make things worse. I wanna have them in perfect phase with each other. As you can see, the speaker looks awesome. That's exactly what you wanna see, never. But I promise you, it'll sound pretty good in the end, so let's just have a listen. Okay, I don't think the 421 on the Cream sounds that good. I'm probably gonna just switch to the 57. I think I meant the Tony, not the Volt. Whew. I think my ears are busted now, but I hope it sounds good. Now we have all these mics in here, and as you can probably tell, we learned many things here. One of the things is I would place the mic absolutely differently on each of these cabinets. So that is one thing. For people who place microphones with their eyes, just take a look at what's here. All these 9 different speakers, I would place the mic completely differently on each of them. And bear in mind, I was just using closed mics for the sake of saving time. But now for the magic, like I said kind of before, the more mics you put in, the more impulse responses you blend in, the more kind of you get rid of the character of your sound. So right now, this is almost like a smoothed IR curve. If you look at this, there are no holes really. This is very generic sounding. You don't sound like any speaker, you sound like 9 different speakers at the same time. So it's a cool thing. Does it sound authentic? I don't know. It probably does, but at the same time, you've never heard anything like this on a record done before the digital age. I'm pretty sure of that. So let's have a listen to what it actually sounds like. It sounds pretty good, right? Like I said, you sort of get rid of the nasty highs, and you're maybe creating kind of hump in the lows, especially if you're not using bright microphones. On purpose, I used very bright mics, so 57 and 421s. And what we're left with is a very nice mid-range. It just sits in the mix almost a little bit too well. I could actually lower the volume. I can actually demonstrate that and make it fit the mix better now. So. I actually can now drop the volume of the guitars down by 1.5 dB. I don't like it for the reason that I'm trying to recreate analog here, and this is something that you would never do in the analog days, so kind of goes against my principles, but you know, at the same time it sounds awesome, so why not use it then? So let's call this Mikko's 9 mic overkill. One more thing that I want to test is just 2 microphones, but sort of finding the best green speaker and the best V30 and making this best of both worlds kind of a situation. And if I was to pick the best green speaker, it would be a 90s Greenbacks. So 90s Greenbacks we have in the BGNR based on a Wagner. We have in a breaker combo. We have it here in a Mars cab. Then we have one in the Mega cab. So let's just kind of compare all of these. Mega cab, Mars cab, not as good. Definitely not as good. I think I prefer the one that's based on a Wagner. Since we did so much of the Mega cabs already, let's intentionally go somewhere else. V30 types, we have the Mars Mofo, which is one of the best V30 types. We already did the Anger, so I'm not gonna go there. The GNR V30 is also pretty good. That's super rare from 96. Yeah, no more Mega. We've done that enough. Okay, pretty sure it's gonna be the Mofo V30. Let's find the best position with a 57 for both of these cabinets and then choose which one is the best, and then just opt for the 421 or a 160 or maybe even a 121 depending on things. But hey, let's have a listen to a good 57 position first. Okay, even though the curve looks better on the Mofo, I think I prefer the 57 on the green. So let's check out some different mics for the Mofo. So we're probably gonna be using the Unidyne mic for the mofo. Okay, now we sort of have these two very different tones, if you compare green and V30. So right now I'm just trying to smear these positions together so they work together, because right now we just have two good sounds, but really they're from different worlds. So potentially the mic up we end up with is not going to be good sounding on its own, but together these two microphones kind of fill out the gaps that they don't have. Maybe it'll make sense in the end. Yeah, that's it. Now tell me, is this a V30 or a Greenback? So let's just call this Mikko's experimental, and Mikko's experimental. Well, let's just call Mikko's X. Mikko's Green 30. That's the one. Just to point out, we are running our Black Friday sale already. So if you don't have Mikko 2 yet, you can get it now for 50% off. Now is the best time to get it. It's never been this inexpensive, affordable. Use any other word than cheap. See you on the next one. I've been Mikko from MO Sound Lab, and this is the Mikko 2 plugin, named after me, because that's just how I do things here. See you on the next one. Bye bye.